First of all, Wilhelm, I do want to say congratulations on
a
spectacular release. I think it's a beautiful piece, and pictures honestly do not do it justice. And this is something that I've noticed throughout every Honeygold release. You know, every time you have an image in your head, you know what it's going to look like, and you go see it, and it's just so much nicer. It's just different.
It's, you know, I believe a lot of our watches are different when you see them than what you experience if you just look at the photo or, you know, in the digital world. And I repeat myself often, but the natural habitat of a wristwatch is the wrist. So I always share with people that I wouldn't make any comments or judgment on a watch until I have it around my wrist, because only then you realize, is it me or is it not? Do I like it or not? Does it fit or not? And specifically watches like the Honeygold, I think even more difficult things like the Handwerkskunst, they will, regardless how good the photo is, it will not be a perfect impression of what the watch is on your wrist. And that, I think, is very important to understand.
Furthermore, I would go and also say that even watches like this, or the Handwerkskunst, which particularly comes to mind right now when I'm thinking of this, is that looking at it in the confines of the boutique, no matter how well lit it is, no matter what techniques you've used to kind of make light bounce off the walls and everything, it's just not going to look the same outside.
No.
It is a treat for the eyes.
No, and it will also reflect on what you wear. So even that will have an impact, you know, light, what you wear, how it is exposed to the light, all the different reflections. But isn't that great? It means that a watch is not just, you look at it, you think you know it, whilst you wear it, you will experience it.
It's not just a static thing. It changes,
it's a living
it evolves.
Thing. It's meant for the wrist.
Well said, well said. Handmade by humans for humans to kind of have that kind of same organic feeling, though it is very much non-organic.
And I know that we are more known as a dress watch, which I understand. However, because we Germans, we like to have things robust and wearable. You know, in the car world, we sometimes talk about what we call trailer queens. You know, cars that are restored to perfection but don't hit the road.
Yeah.
They go from a trailer to the concourse back onto the trailer. They are made for the wrist, not for the safe.
Yeah, not safe queens.
That's you know, is important. That's why all the watches are at least waterproof to 3 ATM. Which specifically on the minute repeater, you would think that's a bit counterintuitive.
Because of the dampening the...
You want to get the noise come out, and with seals and water tightness, of course, you catch the sound instead of releasing it. However, I mean, I realized again here, not so much this time, but 2 weeks ago, high humidity and temperature outside. Then you go into a shopping mall, you cool down to 17 degrees Celsius. You know, if there's any humidity in your watch, trust me, you will have condensate in the watch, and that we all know is not good for steel parts.
Well, especially not for German silver as well, right?
Well, German silver can cope with it better than the steel, because that's why German silver is good in many regards, because it's only the grease or the acid of your skin that will develop the ugly patina.
Interesting, because I've always
the corrosion is going to happen on the steel parts.
Okay,
that's where it bites. Not only for us, whoever works with steel and condensation will cause rust, corrosion, no question.
So we've touched upon many topics, different topics that I do want to unpack. So coming to what we said earlier about how watches are done so beautifully and how they're made by humans, rather than machine. And I know that at Lange there's a very strong traditional and maybe to some extent a very hardcore value of challenging yourself.
Yes.
Right? And I want to know that where does that stem from, and how do you see it perpetuating over the years coming? So is this always going to be part of the ethos of the brand that, hey, if it's easy, we're not going to do it. If a case can be stamped from ceramic, we don't want to do it. If an escapement can be mass produced, you know, via a silicon wafer, and we can like make 100 different escape wheels at the same time, we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
I think you summarized it nicely, yes.
I was hoping for a bit more than that, but basically,
no, I can't.
we're not going to
Look, I mean, what we produce, nobody needs. Let's start with this, you know. I mean, the usefulness of a mechanical watch has been outlived for at least 50 years, if not longer. So nobody needs a watch. That's why probably a lot of people want a watch. But and then, you know, the different purchasing motivations, if I can say it this way. I know pretty well after all these years the reason why clients like what we do. And I think in the back of their mind, they know that a very skilled human being struggled to deliver a watch like this.
Yes.
That for them means the humans are still setting a standard. When you start accepting shortcuts on that journey, when you regulate a watch no more because you know it's working, because it's, you know, a mass-produced escapement or hairspring, you take that myth away. You know, it's a lot easier for us, but it is not what our clients want from us. They want that we are innovative, jumping second hands on a chronograph, instantaneously jumping indications on a perpetual calendar, making a tourbillon stop. These are all little innovations, but they also want us to stay true to ourselves, which is, you know, it's traditional and it's watchmaking. And it's done by watchmaker, not by trained people and not step by step. So these are a few fundamentals that we believe will define the core of our existence. It's one of the pillars that our maison is resting on. I would not deviate from that for, you know, every controller would say, why do double assembly? Get it right the first place. That's not the purpose.
No, that's not the point.
That's not the point. You know, the point is if you want to ensure aesthetical and technical perfection, at least a strive for perfection, and you know which materials we use, you mentioned German silver, then you know you first have to do all the tolerance adjustments. You have to make sure the movement works perfectly. You go through a test work to assure it works perfectly. Then you take it back, you disassemble it, you clean it, you put on the final decoration because now you know all the adjustments are perfect. The watch will run perfectly. So you clean it, put the final decoration on, encase it, send it to the test again, and only then it's leaving the manufactory. For a controller, a nightmare. For somebody that is into watches, that's what they want from us.
That's where the value is, right?
That's what they want from us. And therefore, I would define we are not against innovation, actually never stand still is one of our main driving forces, but always in a traditional way. Whenever it appears to be a shortcut, we will not entertain that road.
So we can't expect to see the Lange one skeletonized in a forged carbon case anytime soon, right? Probably not.
Not in a wildest fever dream.
On a rubber strap, huh? Yeah.
No.
So that I can understand the use of traditional materials, but what about traditional techniques on newer materials? So, and this is just the fever dream speaking again. I've seen some watches use sapphire, and now I'm not saying that I would ever assume that, or I would ever even suggest that Lange would make a sapphire case Zeitwerk or something where you can see like the whole movement. No, probably not. But what about bridges in sapphire rather than German silver? What about, like different techniques on traditional techniques on, let's say, a new component in a movement that may actually benefit the chronometry of a watch, for example. So a functioning part rather than just say a chaton, because like I don't want to see a chaton in sapphire because that doesn't really make sense. Right? No. But to see it in perhaps maybe, I don't know, some different kind of alloy that does something different, perhaps maybe a pinion in a new material or a new alloy, is that's or a balance wheel similar to what many independent watchmakers are using, like different alloys. So traditional techniques, but on perhaps new age materials, is that something that the brand is looking at or acknowledging, or completely kind of looking away from it? Because this is just not within the whole aesthetic or core ethos of the brand.
I would believe that there is so many uncharted traditional territory for us, which we first need to occupy, that at least in the long foreseeable future, we will be very busy in conquering that. Why would we go and open something before we have, evaluated all the different levels? I mean, this year we came up with the minute repeater perpetual calendar for the very first time. So we still have so many open territories that I think we need to explore before we go any more, non-natural way for us.
Okay.
I also think that, we launched the sixth family. Actually, we launched it here in Dubai about 6 years ago, the 24th of October, 2019.
Sharp memory.
I know, because I was here, and trust me, that was a very exciting moment in my life, because coming up with something totally new, knowing how we don't have clients, we have custodians. That is good, but for God's sake, if you do anything that is different, you have to expect a strong reaction, and that's what we saw. However, I always believe that the Odysseus family has opened a design door for us that we can use without jeopardizing what we stand for. So where we are very traditional in, the 5 families, we came with a titanium watch for the Odysseus, or a full bracelet watch.
I wanted to hint to that direction as well. Yes, please go on. Yeah.
So that gives us room, our designers room, to extend the scope a little bit without going off track. But it also gives a safe anchor for our very conservative clients that say, I don't want that. A strap and a gold watch for me that's what you stand for. I don't want a bracelet. I'm not a bracelet person. I openly admit that. You will hardly see me with wearing a bracelet watch, because I like leather strap. I like a rubber strap. But again, that's why usually my holiday watch is the Odysseus white gold with a rubber strap. That's what I wear when I go to South Africa for the beach. So that, I feel comfortable with this.
So would you say that the Odysseus is maybe even like the testing grounds for something new? So
no,
or would you say that it's doing something else? So
yes, doing something else. Look, we always have a balance.
You can experiment here, perhaps.
No. We always learn from every project, specifically from those that failed, because you learn and you develop. You have no idea, like say the jumping discs of the Zeitwerk and the mechanism behind it helped us to develop something with the Lange 1 perpetual calendar tourbillon, the big disc that is jumping. So you learn from different projects.
The power management.
Exactly. However, and that's why I'm so, I understand if somebody tells me I don't like the Odysseus, I don't like the design, that's fine. It's not meant to be loved by everybody, and we only produce very few of them a year. So who am I to say that's a watch that everybody should
Yeah, you
like?
don't have to worry.
You don't have, that's not the purpose of it. But the movement from not using a balance cork, but using a balance bridge, which we don't use in any other watch. No. Going to 4 hertz, which we never do for other watches. So you see already here how we do it differently, but in a very Lange Söhne way.
I remember...
That's the main purpose of it, Be different, but very clearly stay true to yourself.
I remember speaking to Tony De Haas I believe he was with us in Como.
Yes.
More than a decade ago.
Yes.
And we were talking at the time. I think perhaps maybe Lange was a little less secretive back then, let's say.
Yeah.
And I was asking him, so what are the new projects coming up? And he said, we're working on a sports watch. And in my mind, I could never imagine, a sports watch. Like I saw like a flash of all these different high horology brands that have sports watches without naming names or brands. And I was like, but how would Lange do that? And he was like, oh, and we're going to do it on a bracelet. I was like, what? And it's going to beat differently and this and that and this and that. And to see it come so many years later, I can understand the collectors who had a strong reaction towards it, either negatively or not favorably. But you can't deny one thing. That is so Lange. Like, it resonates so strong with the DNA of the brand, whether you're talking about the case, whether you're talking about the bracelet, whether you're talking about the design, whether you're talking about the movement. It is just, it's so well defined.
And I think that's why it took so long. I remember even Günther Blümlein was working on a more sportier Lange watch. That's how long it goes back. So from the word go, the idea was eventually we're going to need something which, I wouldn't say is more robust, because all our watches are basically robust. They go through very similar test
I can
work,
attest to that as an owner of a few Lange.
So it's not a quite, but I guess it's more in the mind of the clients that a precious metal watch on a leather strap may not be ideal to go and jump into the pool. And I understand that. But the idea to come up with a watch for these special occasions is almost as old as the company. However, it also tells a lot about the company. We never could agree on a design that has not been there before, that is different to anything we have in our own range, that has the potential to become a family, which is highly recognizable.
You have
shrunk. If you look at these 4 parameters, you will quickly come to the conclusion that, it has to be different. And if anything becomes different and new, you will have the lovers and you will have the haters. It is like this, huh? I quote somebody, Gary, who once said, Wilhelm, the lovers will love, the haters will hate, and the trolls will troll. And there's nothing you can do. And he's right. At the end, we do not have enough capacity to produce the watch in the numbers requested by our clients. I've also seen a few people that didn't like it in the beginning. And then, as they saw the watch more often and as they had it around their wrist for a few times, they actually absolutely loved it at the end. So I've seen a few people migrating from haters to lovers. And I think that's a good thing. I believe something that is immediately beautiful often doesn't have any longevity. It's not sustainable, because immediate beauty, we get bored of very quickly. If there is something that aggravates it, that it's a very lively thing, that's life, it sticks a lot better to mind.
Well said, well said. I do want to touch upon one more thing that you mentioned earlier. When I asked that, were you looking at perhaps using new materials and whatnot, and you said something very telling, I think, in a way, that there's still so much that you want to conquer.
Yes.
In the traditional world, that's not, shall we say, that has not been executed by Lange.
Yes.
Before moving on and looking at further opportunities to kind of maybe develop and work on new things. Well, you have a jumping watch, which essentially jumping hours and minutes. You have perpetuals, you have chronographs, you have split chronographs, you have double split chronographs, you have triple split chronographs, split perpetuals, all of the above with tourbillons, and you can attest as well that to the watch that you're wearing, you have a beautiful now minute repeater. Yes. With a perpetual calendar. Yeah. What's left?
Oh, there's a lot left. And
really?
You know that as a collector. The moment I say now anything, people know what we're working on. So I will not share it. But whoever is familiar with fine watchmaking knows there are areas that we haven't even touched yet. Mm. And it's a development. And, I always take, you remember when we launched the Grand Complication in 2013?
Yes, I was there.
Everybody thought the next thing we come up with is a traditional minute repeater. That would have been logic.
We had discussions with collectors for hours on WhatsApp and on the forums, it.
And then we came up with the Zeitwerk minute repeater.
A decimal repeater too.
Absolutely nobody expected. You see, I think that's what we're going to work on. There's always something which you can do differently, which then sets it apart from average. A tourbillon. It's been developed by Breguet, 280 years ago? And funny enough, for the most time, you had to adjust the time with the running second, which we all know is rather challenging. Now, we said, if there's a tourbillon, why not make it stopping? And then resetting it the next way. It's these. So there is so much you can do today, but the moment I share it with you, the surprise element is taken away. And I know that a lot of our clients love the surprise element.
It is true. And I do want to say that all of these new areas that you're exploring genuinely are for the wearers and the collectors. Like for the tourbillon, I cannot tell you how nice it was to realize that my watch could be stopped with the pull of a crown. It makes setting it so much easier. And I'm one of those sticklers for chronometry.
Yeah.
And I know that if a watch claims that it is in this case, fusee chain and tourbillon, it should be running within very tight tolerances.
Yeah.
Right?
It's meant to be +2, -3, yeah.
Not even that. Yeah. I remember that it was, I don't know, this may be off topic a little bit, but why not, right? I remember it was running at +3, I believe, when I had first picked it up. And I had mentioned it to you over dinner. And you asked me, do you have a watch to go home with? And I think I was wearing something, my Apple Watch on my other wrist. I said, I can wear this. You told me to hand the watch in. And you did some black magic in the factory, and it came back, and I was shocked. So the balance cock had been replaced. Thank you very much, and personalized. I appreciate that until today. And the watch was running at an astounding +0.8 seconds a day.
It's, the one thing
Never
I always...
in my wildest dreams.
Yeah, it's. I mean, this is the best watch to adjust because I believe, if you have a changing torque, which you have with most watches, that's very hard to compensate.
With the constant amplitude.
With your watch, it's a constant force, so at least that element of, going up and down is taken away. However, a watch will leave the factory absolutely perfect, but then it's exposed to the environment. And there will, it will get different over time. However, if the watch is set good and well, then the different positions will offset each other. That's always the challenge. So if you would set all positions to 0, it would probably not last like this for more than an hour.
No, 100%.
You know, because it's you need to have the different tolerances and they will offset each other. And that makes you, because you wear the watch, it's, you know, upside down, crown up, crown down, left, right, center. And that will over time create a rhythm. And over time, the watch will, you know, be accurate. That's funny enough, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
Unless you expose it to magnetism, which today is probably the biggest element of making a watch inaccurate. And we have no idea how many magnets there are around, you know, from iPod to iPad.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, there's always magnets. And if you expose it, there are metal parts in it. If they get magnetized, you have an inaccurate watch.
There's a lot
very
of steel.
easy to fix, but it's inaccurate for that.
Yeah. And I do want to say one more thing as well to add upon this. When these watches are initially set, they are set at a specific temperature, altitude, barometric pressure, and everything.
There's
right?
a DIN norm for it. You know, that's the way it's been done. Yeah.
So once they're set, they do achieve their tolerances and their QC.
Otherwise, they wouldn't leave the factory.
Otherwise, they won't leave. Yeah, but like in transit, something may happen, air pressure or something, or maybe it's knocked around. Even if it's not, like taking it from one country to another. And I've noticed this on many watches. It's not just a Lange watch. It will run at a certain rate in the UAE.
Yeah.
And the second, like I'm in Europe, it's like, for some reason, it's more accurate in Europe. But then again, you know, like that's where they're set. Right?
Let me share a story with you. We used to live in Pretoria, in South Africa. That's about 1,800 meter altitude.
Okay.
I was running there, and it was spectacular. Whenever I came back to Munich, which is about 600 meters, I was very quick because my condition was great. I was used to high altitude. And, you know, now running at low altitude gave me maximum power.
Your amplitude increased.
Problem is, when you come back, you experience the opposite. So a mechanical watch, and isn't that nice? It's a little bit like us.
Yeah.
You know, we ran 24/7, but we're not always the same. You know, there is something, it's almost like there's a bit of soul in it, which sets it apart from an Apple Watch, because there's no soul in it. That will always be accurate. Unless it runs out of power, then it's just dead. But that's what I like on watches.
And it's so nice that these are human powered. You know, like you have solar powered watches, electric power watches, but like these are human powered.
I was with a guy called Jay Leno. I'm sure you know Jay Leno.
Heard of him.
And he said to me, Wilhelm, you know what I like most on the hand-wound watches? I said, what is it? They depend on me. If I don't wind them up, they're dead.
Yeah.
So I like that they depend on me.
I have a few words to say about that, but interesting. Coming back to our conversation earlier about how much hand involvement there is on these watches, and I understand that there's always this strive for perfection. And I would argue that Lange is probably one of the more strict brands when it comes to this, whether it's a blemish on a chamfered edge or whether it's uneven circular graining on a barrel or wheel or pinion. This is very important to Lange and very important to collectors as well.
Yes.
And it shows how far a brand would go to make functional parts and even hidden parts beautiful, right? But that's on the, shall we call it, business end of the watch. When we come to the dial, we see a more very a plain, a very sober looking watch. Where there are some exceptions, okay, where you have something a bit more striking. Let's say the Hansworks Sohne series, the beautiful black. I know that it looks like a black dial, but like upon closer inspection, my God.
Yeah, somebody said it's a mix between a rough, dark sea and a black hole.
Well said. Well said. Because both will suck you in and just keep you like,
Yes.
So with this kind of foray into the hammered dials and maybe floral motifs that we've seen on the back of the watch, and this ability, or let's say perhaps maybe even a flex to some extent, that hey, we can do enamel really good as well.
Yeah.
Is there ever a, well, this is probably not the right way to ask. I shouldn't ask, are you going to do it or not? Or I should say, is there any interest from the brand to kind of look in the direction of perhaps creating special dials on the watch, whether it would be an enameled
But that's what we do today.
Scenery, perhaps?
No, look, we stay very true to ourselves. And, you know, what you just expressed, I always say these are the two souls of our watches. You have the understatement on the dial side, and then you have the opulence of the movement shown through the crystal on the case back. And it's up on you to decide whether you want to share that with somebody or not. You know, we are very unknown, and we like to be very unknown, which means clients that like us and buy us, it's a very educated purchasing decision, and they usually do it because they exactly are into the details that you just described. But they also like the discreetness of the watch. I mean, we are privileged here in Dubai, but there are parts of the world where you don't want to be seen with an expensive, recognizable by everybody watch, because it makes you a target. The discreetness of our watches is something that we want to nurture, as well as our general brand unawareness. Both are assets for us. So we want to share what we do. That's why we have the pop-up. We want to share it with people that are really interested in fine watchmaking. And there are things that we want to do in-house. Enamel dials, the beautiful dial of the turbograph, honey gold, things like that. So we can always do things if we want it, but you know, with our capacity constraints, we also have to accept that sometimes we have to rely on other suppliers, and we never hidden that we use case suppliers, that the dials are designed by us, the initial process is controlled by us, but they are produced by other companies. Our core competence is the movement and the design, of course, of the watch.
Has that always been the case? Because I remember that in the early days of the Pour le Mérite, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that Lange was commissioning the movement to be tested by a third party, which I don't want to really name on camera, and then it was...
No, look, there was a lot of help in the beginning, and that's very known. I think without Gesle Culture IWC, who were both run by Mr. Blümlein, you know, without all the help of them, and a lot of our people have been sent to Schaffhausen to learn decorations and all that, we wouldn't sit here. You know, that's a known chapter of our history. As it is that in the first 4 watches, you know, some companies were involved, but everything after was done by us.
Can we pinpoint a year, perhaps, for the scholars to kind of say this is when everything changed?
I would actually lie to you because I don't know exactly when it has changed, but things like the datograph have been developed completely in-house. And that we launched 1999. So obviously, and you know, they didn't start the year before.
Yeah.
So obviously, that already was done in-house. And the one reason that Tony de Haas joined the company a long time ago was to establish a construction department, which we still have today, including a design department, so that anything we want to do in-house, we can do in-house.
Yeah. Whatever the wish.
And I share a story with you. Turbograph honey gold, 24th of October 2020. So here came March. The world came to a standstill. and we had no dial for the watch. Because, you know, we had given it to external people and they just shut down.
Yeah.
So very suddenly we were on our own, and Tony pulled the team together. We pulled the resources together. We put the creative minds together. And I think it's one of the most beautiful dials we ever launched on that watch, because it's been done in-house A to Z. So anything we want to do in-house, we can do in-house. Not question of competence, it's question of allocation of capacity. And that's the restricting factor for us.
I think those are very powerful words. And probably a fantastic way to leave it there, as I know that we're a bit short on time.
Thank you.
I want to thank you very much.
Thank you. Pleasure.
For spending the time with us.
Absolute pleasure.
Congratulate you on the release of this beautiful new watch.
Wonderful.
And
Thank you.
I look forward to see many more. And I would love to see
4 months from now on, you're going to see the next.
something new is going to be conquered.
For sure.
Something new is going to be conquered in 4 months. I love it.
I can actually share with you is that Watches and Wonders, but that's how far I would go.
It's probably on a strap, though.
For sure.
For sure. All right. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Thank you.